New Knowledge Adventures class called Making the Environment Eco-Friendly. We will be recording this class and it will be available to view later on YouTube. Once again, welcome. I'm excited about today's program. My name is Lisa Artiga and I am a volunteer facilitator. NKA is a volunteer-driven organization headquartered here in the Treasure Valley. We've been operational since 2015, and we are very, very proud to be providing lifelong learning experiences to the community. And even with the pandemic, we are continuing our mission of lifelong learning. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce Debbie Jensen. Debbie is a retired nurse and a very creative individual. Today, she is going to be focusing on eco-friendly ways that we can help preserve our environment. So without further ado, I'd like to hand this over to Debbie Jensen.
Okay, will you get up the PowerPoint?
And yeah.
Oh, I have to go backwards. There we go.
Okay, the controller there.
Good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to give you some ideas about becoming eco-friendly. And, you know, there are people who think that you go to a zero waste. If everybody went to a zero waste, well, that's almost or next to impossible. And part of it is because we have become so dependent upon what we have. I mean, we have all sorts of conveniences that when I was younger, you know, you never would have thought about that. I took a lunch to school every day and we used wax paper to wrap our sandwiches. And nowadays you've got all different kinds of things that you can use. A lot of plastic, a huge amount of plastic. We drank water from a drinking fountain or just from the sink. We did our own dishes. We didn't have dishwashers. I remember the first dishwashers were kind of portable. You stuck them over in a corner, and then when you're ready to wash the dishes, you take them to the sink and hook the hoses up to the faucet in the sink, and that's how you did it all. I even had a wringer washer when I was first married, so that tells you about all these wonderful conveniences. But with the conveniences comes problems such as waste management. What do we do with all of our waste? And we know that certain things are not recyclable. Take, for instance, if you're using a plastic water bottle. If that bottle is if it's a crinkly bottle, it can never be recycled. And once a plastic is recycled, then they're put different chemicals and whatever in it, and it becomes toxic and it can't be recycled the second time. So that's something that everybody has to think about. We've grown up in a throwaway mentality. You know, you go and you get your lunch or your dinner someplace, and you get to go things with you, or you go to some places and they give you plastic forks, they give you plastic straws, all of that. So we just throw all that stuff away without thinking about it. And what we're doing is we're polluting our land and, as importantly, our water sources. So and when we do that, we endanger insects and bees and animals of all categories. So I'm going to give you some ideas about cutting down on waste. And so for the next 3 weeks, I mean, counting today, and then there'll be 2 more classes, we will be doing some demonstrations, but Lisa and I have planned all these 3 and they're going to be hopefully fun. because both of us have really adopted a lot of these things. And there's a book written by B. Johnson, and it's called Zero Waste Home. And she went completely to zero waste. She has 2 sons and a husband, and her husband, everybody was involved in this. Now, I don't really know. I've looked at everything that she's done, and I read the book, and I thought to myself, I'm not so sure that this is something that we can all do. But I've taken some of the information. She actually has these ways to eliminate waste, and the first is refuse. Refuse to take something that you're going to have to throw away and that can't be recyclable. Reduce the amount of things. None of the clam containers, those are the containers that the lid is hooked to the bottom and they close like a clam. Okay, you get sandwiches in them, you get desserts in them, you get meals in them. All of those are not recyclable at all. So what do you do when you get those types of things? Reuse whatever you can, and we're going to go through some of the things about reusing. Recycle whatever you can, and rot. Rot is the composting part of it. In the Boise area, we do have a composting program going on where you can use that. But I'm going to show you some ways that you can do that composting, even if you don't live in the Boise area or you can't do the composting at home. This is the Zero Waste book that B. Johnson wrote, and it's got some really good articles. It also has some recipes on how to make different things. You know, making your own mustard, making your own ketchup. My granddaughter, who was 9 years old, 9 or 8 years old 2 years ago, she made her own ketchup because she grew her tomatoes and whatever, and then made ketchup. So I thought, well, if she can do it, so can I. And I made ketchup. And I got to tell you, it's a lot better than what you buy. Now, I haven't made it since, but in the Zero Waste, she tells you how to make mustard and how to make ketchup. So we're gonna focus on different areas of your home, what you can do and places that you can go to take care of all this. The first is, of course, your home office. This is actually the place that there's not a huge amount that you can do, but there are some things. You always want to buy recycled paper. And generally recycled paper will be wrapped in paper, and it's often green. There's a green color on it, and it will say recycled paper. Now, you also get all your billing online so that you don't have to, take that out of the mailbox and then throw it away. What happens with those bills is, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I get a lot of other information with that bill, and there'll be some advertisements with it. Well, I don't want to have all that because I don't want to have all that paper to recycle. Pay your bills online whenever you can. Skip getting receipts. This is a real hard thing for some people because they feel like they need that piece of paper to go back and balance their books or their checking account or whatever. The fact of the matter is now everything's online, so you can balance it. You have the checks or the debit card that you've used or the credit card that you used, all the charges on it is right there for you to look at. Recycle, recycle, recycle. Now, when I talk about recycle, I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about recycling your electronics. There are places in this area where you can actually recycle electronics. Some of them recycle them into new they update or refurbish the electronics. Others use parts out of that to make new electronics. The one that I usually use is called Remuseum. So it's re and then museum. It's on Chinden, and they take the electronics, and I even take over all of my cords and whatever, and then they use it and they sell the refurbished electronics. It's a really good place. If you want to find something closer to your own home, there are, in fact, if you go on the web and you look, and you look for recycle electronics. That's all you have to punch in there, and you will get a list of about 20 different places where you can recycle electronics. They don't always refurbish, but you can recycle them, meaning that they don't go in the dump, okay? And one thing I need to say about recycling is, if you need a new printer or something like that, if you can buy a refurbished one, it actually cuts down on what's going to go into the landfill, and you don't have that much of a burden in the landfill. Buy larger ink cartridges, buy the largest that you can, and use refillable if at all possible. Not all ink cartridges can be refilled, but a lot of them can. So ask your office supply store. I take in my ink cartridges, and I actually get, so much, a percentage off of my next purchase because of that, because they do refill those and then sell them. Recycle paper whenever you can. Make sure that you're throwing all that trash, mail, and everything into your recycle bin. Another thing you can do is you can make your own paper. Now, homemade paper, you can do all sorts. It's a little bit thicker, but you can make Christmas cards. You can do all sorts of things with recycled paper. And there are a couple videos on YouTube. You just put in on YouTube, making your own paper. And what you need is an old, oh geez. I can't even think of what you use. The thing you make the thing you make your juice in, not a juicer, but a blender. You need an old blender, you need some water, you need the paper, and then it tells you how to make the screens. I actually made this for my mother years and years ago. And I made the screens for her and the whole setup, and she made paper with all sorts of things. But you can use this paper to make your own boxes. I mean, all sorts of things. So whenever you can, use it for something else, reuse it. Secondhand office supply stores. You want to go to thrift stores. They'll have things like, you notice in little plastic bags, they'll have like pens and pencils. They may even have crayons if you have grandchildren. You have those kind of things. But I don't know how many of you know about the reuse market. It's up above North End Organics on Chinden Boulevard. So it's on the second floor. And it's crafts, they call it craft supplies. So people bring their fabric, they bring, there's silk flowers, there are stamps for stamping, there is paper, there is all sorts of sewing equipment, poster board. I mean, this place is fantastic. And it generally talks about, generally you think about it being all craft stuff. Well, some of it you can use for other things, but it's a great store. It is opened on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 12 to 5, I think. And it's on the second floor of North End Organics. And if you haven't been there, please go. It's a really neat place just to walk around in. As I said, recycle electronics, and Remuseum is a great place. Refurbished electronics, you need to recycle that, as I said, or go to Remuseum. And they have, I mean, they have all sorts of things, all sorts of electronics, things that you wouldn't even think about. The laundry room. The laundry room is a real important place to cut down on waste. You really don't want to have a whole lot of waste. And some of the things that you use in your laundry room are very toxic. I don't think many people know how toxic dryer sheets can be. But we're going to, and phosphate-free detergents. There aren't that many phosphate detergents with phosphate in them, but make sure you're buying a phosphate-free detergent. Use cold or cool water whenever you can with washing clothes. In fact, I cannot remember the last time I used hot water. I used to always use hot water on my whites, and I don't anymore. I use cold for everything. Use distilled vinegar in your rinse cycle. It is instead of like Downy or something like that, which has all sorts of chemicals in it. Vinegar is great for a lot of things. So what you want is get yourself a big bottle of distilled, a big gallon of distilled vinegar. And I'm going to tell you where you can refill that in a little bit. Clean your dryer filter as often as you can. Usually once a laundry day is sufficient, but that cuts down on the, if you leave your filter not cleaned, it cuts down, it will cut down on the efficiency of the machine itself. And then to soften your clothes, you're going to use the vinegar, but also you can use, there's two products available. I'm showing you the dryer balls, and they're made out of wool. Now these I bought on Amazon, oh, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I have 7 in my dryer. And they're in there all the time. And what they do is, it's almost like if you had washed your tennis shoes and thrown them in the dryer. You know what happens is they beat things, and you get a softer fabric with things in the dryer. You can also buy some silicone balls that have little nibs on them, and you can get those on Amazon, and they do great for softening your clothes. And so, you know, it's a great way where you don't have any waste there. Now, in the bathroom, buy toilet paper that's recycled. I mean, you know, they do clean it. And they can recycle paper to make toilet paper. Refill your own containers rather than buying new. Now I'm showing you just a couple places, a couple things that you can refill. There are places where you can actually refill your own containers in town, are the Boise Co-op, and you can buy hand lotion and soaps and shampoo and cream rinse and jojoba oil and all those types of things. All you do is take your container in, go to the desk, and they will weigh your container so that weight can be taken off, and they only charge you for what you've bought. And I got to tell you, when you buy in bulk that way, that means that they aren't already in a container for you. When you buy in bulk that way, you save a huge amount of money. There's also Roots, which is a zero waste market. And that's also on Chinden. And the Roots Zero Waste Market is interesting because it's the first zero waste market in the United States. And so everything there is zero waste. That means that you bring in all of your own containers. They weigh them out. They also have containers there, like they have a whole bunch of, bottles that people have brought in, pickle bottles, all that kind of stuff. And what I'm saying to you is keep all the bottles and things so that you, especially glass, because glass is really nice to have. But I will tell you that in this picture, the pump thing was my cream rinse. And all I did was take off the thing and wash it out. And I used the spray bottle for my cleaning supplies in the bathroom. Now, cleaning supplies in the bathroom that will, in fact, help you cut down on zero waste. The first one is, of course, making your own tooth powder. When I was little, I had 10 sisters and brothers, so we would run out of toothpaste. And, it wasn't, I think my mother shopped every 2 weeks or something like that. And I can remember that we used baking soda. Now, I didn't like the taste of baking soda, and I really didn't like it very well. But you can use baking soda with a little bit of stevia and put it in a salt shaker so that you can, or make your own. Now, the other thing is keep your pill bottle, punch a couple holes in the top, and that can be for your tooth powder, and baking soda cleans very, very well, and it gets rid of the tartar. For water spot in your shower, you can make your own. And this is where I use the spray bottle. I will tell you that I have made this for probably 7 or 8 years. And I use it after each and every shower, and I just spray the shower down and to get rid of water spots because I have hard water. So you use 1/2 cup of isopropyl alcohol, which you'll be able to get at Roots. You use some hydrogen peroxide and then some Dawn liquid. And the reason that you're using Dawn is Dawn is a pretty pure soap. It doesn't have a lot of other things in it. So I use the blue Dawn. And then you fill up the rest of the thing is water and shake it up. To clean your mirrors and your windows, you use 1 part of vinegar to 3 parts of water. And I will bet money that most of you used vinegar to clean windows when you were little. And then we used newspaper because the print on the newspaper helps shine the windows. I would suspect that a lot of you did that. To make a spray disinfectant, and I did do this at the beginning of the COVID thing, I made my own. Vinegar has some antibacterial properties, but with the ice, you mix it with the isopropyl alcohol, and then you add water to the mixture. And what happens is you have an excellent, excellent sanitizer. And so you can sanitize with this, and you don't need to buy anything else. You don't need to get packaging from something else. In the kitchen, this is probably the place where you have the largest amount of waste. So I'm telling you when you need to use, or when you want to use disposable plates and utensils, there's a couple things you can do. There are some of them that are compostable. Now, I think mainly about bamboo. Bamboo is wonderful. It's compostable. The paper plates and the little bit thicker ones that are kind of cardboard, those are compostable. But what I'm asking you to do with the compostable is you won't be able to throw those into your green thing. I want you to put them in the trash because they will compost or break down even in the landfill. But the plastic styrofoam is really a terrible thing. Try avoid ever using utensils or when plastic utensils when they're offered at a store. And I'll show you what to do about that. Use cloth napkins in your home and only launder them when they're soiled. So let's say there's 2 people in your home. You have 2 different color of napkins, and you just oftentimes you don't get the napkin dirty, but I get it dirty almost every time. I bought my napkins at a thrift store. I bought extra ones so that I had enough, like when people come over to eat and whatever. But you want to only wash them when they're soiled, and that way you don't have all of the other waste. Although that napkins are probably one of the least, if I had to choose what were the most important, it wouldn't be the napkins. Use rags made from old worn clothes items instead of paper towels. Now, a lot of people love the paper towels, and they will break down. The thing is that oftentimes the cloths are, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. But I do use a lot of, I take my old towels, I even take my old sheets and cut them up into, rip. Actually, I cut and rip. When you need to use soap, use a Castile soap. There's Castile soap that you can buy that you buy in bulk at both the co-op and at Roots, and you fill your own container with it, and it's wonderful for your skin, and it's wonderful for dish cleaning, and it does floors beautifully. Use vinegar as a spot reducer in your dishwasher. So wherever you have to put the, like the jet dry, put vinegar in there instead. It works just as well. How many of you remember using vinegar to clean bottles? And because you didn't want any spots on them. And vinegar was wonderful for that, and it's wonderful for your dishwasher. And you can get refillable, you can refill the bottles of vinegar at Roots. So you buy it once and you refill for everything else. Refuse to use plastic bags at a store. Carry reusable bags for both groceries and your produce. And I've got examples of all those I will tell you about. Repair rather than replace. If at all possible, when something goes wrong in your kitchen, get it repaired. If possible, whenever, let's say I had a toaster recently that went out. Well, it costs more to do the toaster, to repair the toaster, than it would to get a new one. But what I did is I went to the thrift store, and I'm going to talk to you about thrift stores. Thrift stores are the best thing in the world. You can get all sorts of kitchen supplies at, if you need a new cookie sheet or a bigger one, or you need a cake pan a certain size or whatever, use those, go to a thrift store. Recycle appliances whenever you can. And I will tell you that if you go recycle appliances on the internet, it will come up with all the places that will take appliances for recycling. Okay, these are some pictures of things. Now, in the first one, you see this wonderful little pouch. And actually, next week, Lisa will be talking about this pouch. I have one in my purse. This is from my purse. And I have a metal straw in it, a knife, fork, and a spoon, and I have chopsticks. Now, this is wonderful because I never have to take a straw from anybody if it's not a recyclable straw. I always have it with me. This one I always have with me. Then I carry the cloth bags. And if you'll notice, there is that little black and white thing. That actually is a little bag that carries a bigger bag. And that's in my purse all the time. So if I go out with friends and we stop at a grocery store or a produce stand or something like that, I'm going to take that out of my purse so that I never have to take a plastic bag, for my groceries. The other thing is that most grocery stores, all of them, in fact, do have paper bags, and you can always say, "May I please have paper?" Or yesterday I was at the co-op and I just said, I don't need anything bagged, because it was enough that I could just take, hold it and not get any bag at all. Then the last one is a great one. These are my produce bags and my spice bags. So, and also my tea bags. So the little tiny ones are muslin. You can buy those at Roots, or you can make your own. And they just have a little drawstring on them. So when I make chai tea, when I, make my own chai tea to give away, I can put them in these little bags. These produce bags come in a variety of sizes. You can buy all different kinds of produce bags on the internet through Amazon. And I like these because I've had them for years and they clean up so nicely. But I always have them with me when I go into the grocery store. So if I have to buy, let's say I'm going to go to someplace that has bulk beans or bulk lentils or whatever, sugar, things like that, I am going to use these bags to put it in. And then all I do is on my phone, in the notes section, I'll put sugar, and then I put the number for that item. So when I get to the counter to check out, the number is, I can just give them the number, or with self-checkout, you can put in your own number. These are absolutely wonderful, and you always have them with you. I just have them in a separate little bag, so that what happens is I just take that little bag and put it with the bags that I'm taking into the store to fill my groceries with. In the kitchen, try to make sure that you're always using reused coffee filters only. So what I mean is, you can use filters, and you can use the ones that are recycled, which are great. Coffee grounds, I think most people don't know that they have a couple other uses. One of those uses is they take away odors. They absorb the odor, much like baking soda does. And as a nurse, I mean, there were odors, whether it was from wounds or it was from other problems, or vomiting or something like that. I always told the people, use coffee grounds. Just sit some coffee grounds around, some used coffee grounds. You can put them in a nice little teacup and set them around. Nobody will ever know that they're coffee grounds, but they absorb the smell. The other thing is that to cut down on the amount of waste, is that you get permanent filters. And in your, like, say, your Mr. Coffee, in the grocery store, you'll see the filters, and then you'll see a little one that has screen on it, and it's plastic with screen on it. You put that where you would normally put your filter, and then you are able to just empty it when you make coffee. If you have coffee that is single-use cups, try to use, they have a little basket also for that coffee, so that you don't have to buy the single-use containers, which are generally plastic. And they're not recyclable type. Use multi-use water bottles. The plastic that is used in water bottles is not recyclable. So, you look at some of these places that have just huge amounts of trash in the ocean, and when you look at it, it's water bottles and water bottles and water bottles. Most people don't realize that the water that you get, that when you buy those plastic things, is generally tap water. They'll say they've done other things with it, and some of them have been filtered, but you can filter your own water at home and use a reusable container. If anything, that's the number one thing that I think that most of us need to stay away from. Stay away from foods that are packaged in clam containers. Now, if at all possible, oftentimes you can, there's going to be times where you have to get that. But if at all possible, if you go someplace that they will let you use your own container, take it with you. But clam containers are just one of those things that happen. The other thing is use compostable bags and parchment paper. So I'm going to show you some compostable bags. And these, I'm not sure that our compost will take those compostable bags. But I went to an NKA class, and Sandy taught this class, and she was wonderful. It was a gardening type class. But anyhow, she's the one that first got me turned on to compostable bags. And what they are is when you put because she's a gardener, she puts all of her compost stuff in that. So it's all vegetable stuff minus the seeds and some of those, and meats and some of those things. And she buries the whole bag in her garden. And she says when she goes back, the bag's gone. And there is the stuff already in her soil. And she said the worms actually love it. So I thought, wow. And I bought some, and I've been using those regularly in my kitchen trash bin. And when I have mainly a plant-based diet. So when I'm cleaning vegetables, like today, I pick up my vegetables from a community sponsored agriculture that I buy into. And so I pick up my veg, and I'll have a great big huge bag of all sorts of vegetables. And when I'm cleaning those and whatever, I put all the waste in one of these smaller compostable bags. And then I just tie it off and throw it in with my garbage. The thing with that is use cloth bags rather than plastic bags for produce, and buy in bulk. Now, when I say buy in bulk, I mean things that are loose rather than large quantities. Now, you can buy in bulk at Costco, and that means something entirely different than buying in bulk at the grocery store. And we'll go through some of those grocery store items that are bought and the grocery stores that you can use. And there's quite a few of them, actually. Well, not quite a few, but there's enough to have a variety. Oh, I can't advance it. It won't advance. I don't know what's happening. There you go. Okay, these are the zero waste places. Of course, I already told you about Roots, and this is the address on Chinden, and you can buy all sorts of things at this. It is a great place. They even have some cooked foodstuffs, but you can buy all of your bathroom types of things, teas and coffee and vinegar and peanut butter and almond oil and honey and oils and spices and baking supplies, beans and lentils, cereals, soaps, lotions, hair rinse, all of that kind of stuff you can buy there. And it's all loose. So you take in your bags or your containers and you get it there. The Boise Co-op has about the same services, but they don't have the vinegar. And yesterday I tried to buy cinnamon there, and darn if they weren't out of cinnamon. And it was kind of disconcerting. But the next place I can go is I can go to Winco. They have dried fruit, they have snacks, they have candies if you want them, mostly dry goods and baking supplies, and all of your spices are there too. The only difference with the spices at Zero Waste and the Boise Co-op is they both have organic. Now, and so if you're into organic, those are the places that you probably want to shop. Fred Meyer's. Well, and the Winco, you cannot bring in your own containers for the dry goods. You can for the produce, but not for the dry goods. In Fred Meyer's, you can only use the produce bag, the bags for produce, and for some dry goods, but you can't use your own containers other than the bags. And I do buy a lot of the stuff that I do in the bags. Make your own bags. Buy a yard or two of muslin, wash the muslin and make a bag out of it. You can put a tie string on it if you want, or all you have to do is, fold the fabric in half, sew the side and the bottom, and you've got your bag for either your produce or something, and they don't weigh very much. In the kitchen, as I said before, use thrift stores to buy new stuff for your kitchen. Now, what I did is I wanted to have a set of dishes and silverware that I could take like on picnics and stuff with my family, or my grandchildren or whatever. So I just went to a thrift store and bought the dishes and the silverware and put it in. I made a bag, put it in a bag. So now I can go anywhere and I have all that ready for that. Decrease the use of clear film, and that's like saran wrap, those types of things. They are not recyclable, and you really want to get away from them. Repurpose empty jars to put things in. Repurpose empty plastic tubs. When I make yogurt, I use an old yogurt tub to put it in because I save all those. Invest in a set of glass covered containers. You will never be sorry that you did. They keep the food very, very fresh, and they're pretty nice to have. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is beeswax wraps. Now, beeswax is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I'm going to show you how to make it. You can write down these types of things, and I'm going to demonstrate how to make the beeswax wraps. And I do believe that the oven didn't get turned on. I'm going to turn on the oven. I am so sorry that I didn't get the oven turned on, but I'll do that, and then I'll talk about beeswax wraps. So if you'll excuse me for just one moment. Okay, so beeswax. Beeswax is so wonderful. And my granddaughter, my 10-year-old granddaughter just started, she's got about 20,000 bees. This is her first year. And I'm hoping to get her beeswax next year because this year she's decided that she won't harvest any honey, although she has a lot of it, because she wants it for the bees to stay, so they have food and they stay healthy. But what you can buy beeswax on the internet, or you can buy it at the Boise Co-op has beeswax, and just look around town. I suspect that you could buy it in the craft stores also, because you know a lot of people want to use beeswax. Okay, what I'm going to have you do is with you're going to need pinking shears, and the only reason you use pinking shears is it makes it look kind of nice, and it's to so you don't have any fraying. But the thing is that with the beeswax, it actually seals in everything. So with your but pinky shears make it look nice. So you need fabric, and you could buy used fabric. Buy a tablecloth at the thrift store and cut it up. If there's one that you can cut up a dress and use it, or you could go to the reuse market at North End Organics. You'll need to have a way to make patterns to make things. So the best thing is take a couple, 3 of your plates, use that to draw your circle, your circles. I actually usually use 3 different plates. Then you can make squares or rectangles for sandwiches and those types of things. What the beeswax does is that, number 1, it's antibacterial. Number 2, it is antiviral. Number 3, it is anti-inflammatory. It's a wonderful product. The beeswax wraps last for about a year. Now, if they start to get a little, they're not clinging as much, then all you need to do is sometimes you just put them between some parchment paper and iron them to spread out the beeswax again, or you can add more beeswax. But the other thing is they are 100% compostable, and they're good in the compost. You'll need to use some parchment paper, and it's best to use parchment paper which is compostable, if at all possible, or recycled parchment paper. Okay, so we are going to go to this, and just one moment. Kathy, Kathy, please.
Yes, Debbie.
Oh, I'm Lisa's here. I need her to take me out of this so I can show you this. Okay. Will you please take those things off the bottom? The bottom's the ones that's heating up. We didn't get it heated up.
And Debbie, if you're going to do a demonstration, I'm going to spotlight you so we can see what you're doing.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Are you doing your demo now?
Yes. Okay. Okay, how long will it take the oven?
Well, I'm not sure.
It's on the lower.
Okay,
But it
shouldn't be on the lower.
It has to be at 225. Okay, first of all, get your oven ready at 225. And actually, we were supposed to have this ready, and you know, the best laid plans of mice and men. Okay, beeswax wraps. Beeswax wraps you use instead of tinfoil or cling-free wrap or cling wrap or something like that. And what they are is you just use different sizes. Now, I'm going to show you some that are a year old. No, they're probably closer to 2 years old. This one, I've got a couple little spots on it where I don't think there's as much wax, so I could always redo those. But you just take whatever fabric you want. This is my favorite fabric. I don't use this one very often because it's big, but it's got ants on it. I just love this. But what I've done is I have infused on these. I have infused each of these wraps with beeswax, some pine resin, and some jojoba oil. So what they will do is you can use these for anything. And the warmth of your hand is what's going to make them stick. The beeswax is the most important, so that's the one that you use the most out of. But all I'm doing here is my hands are never very warm. They're always kind of cold. I think that's cold hands, warm heart, right? And what happens is I now have a tight seal. Now I use it for like anything. And it's all sealed now. Everything is sealed. Wrap sandwiches in it, wrap fruit in it. I'm gonna find a round piece that I can wrap a piece of fruit in. And these I made last night. Oh, I'm not gonna get this all the way around, okay. Well, you understand, you can just, you use whatever size. This size actually would have been the one to use. But, oh, you have a smaller one or a bigger one? Oh, okay. And I gave these as presents last year because they're kind of expensive to buy. You can get them on the internet, but with 10 sisters and brothers, I make all my presents. And so I gave them all this last year. So it's just a matter of doing this. I use them to, with cantaloupe or whatever. When you're finished with them, you take them off. You just use some mild soap. You could use the Castile soap or you could use the Dawn, and you just wash over them, rinse it under warm water, and hang it. Now, or just dry it off. You can always put it over something to dry. But these will last and last and last and last. Okay.
Oven's ready.
Yeah. I'm going to show you some different beeswax. Okay. Now this beeswax, this first thing of beeswax is it came in it looked like a bar of soap, but it was beeswax. And so I grated it. Do not like grating it. Do not like it at all. It's hard. And I thought, geez, I really don't like that. Then you can get the pellets. These pellets came from the co-op, and they're yellow. I'm not real fond of the yellow pellets, and I'll tell you why. Is because they sometimes, if you'll notice, this fabric is really quite, this fabric here was really quite bright, but now it's kind of dull. So, but these pellets do work well. And these pellets, I love. And they are white. So that your, so that what happens is your fabric is not discolored at all. Okay, the pine resin, you can get it a couple different ways. This pine resin is in chunks. And pine resin, it has a real low melting point. But it looks, this is in chunks and I don't like it because it's hard to measure. So I've actually got this all crunched up when I go to use this one. This pine resin
He's like,
Actually,
yes.
this pine resin is actually in powder form. So it's been powdered. You'll need the jojoba oil. And I put mine in a used dropper bottle so that I could use just a little bit at a time. And then I can use this parchment paper, which is recycled parchment paper. And I bought all this at Fred Meyer's. And this is recycled and it's compostable also. Now, I think it's because you can't have food on it or it can't be soiled when you put it in your compost bin. You need to, this one you need to compost yourself. And this is parchment paper that is, this is compostable also, and it's recycled. So, there you go with that. Now, we're gonna make a wrap. I have used almost every method known to make wraps. And this is the one that is the easiest, the fastest, and I love making it this way. So the first wrap I'm going to make is actually, I thought, well, you need one for a larger pan, you know, a rectangular or a square pan. So this one is like 15 by 15, I think. And it's too big for my cookie sheet. But if you'll notice on my cookie sheet, I have, in fact, put down my parchment paper. And then I folded my fabric in half. Now, this is going to be quite easy to do because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all my stuff on here, put it in the oven, and then you watch it to see when it melts, you know, when it gets melted. Once it's melted, all you do is take your pastry brush and just even it out. And then you can turn it and do the other side. Then you can unfold it. And this way you actually can see if you don't have enough on it, okay? So the first thing I want to do is I want to take some jojoba oil. What this will do is this makes your wrap pliable. It makes it much more pliable. It's wonderful to use. And what I usually do is when I have a folded object, I'm actually going to put the stuff in each side. So just, you want to put drops all along here because once you start using your pastry brush, you mix everything together. So what I'm doing here is I'm just putting my jojoba oil on it. Okay, so I've got quite a few little spots on here. I've done quite a few of those. Now I'm going to put a little bit of the resin. And I don't like using a lot of resin. In fact, I've made some without the resin. The reason I don't is because the resin, when the heat gets a little bit higher, right now I've got my oven on 225. And that's about what that's what I use. And then I just put a little tiny bit of resin on this and spread it out. The resin has a tendency when it gets a higher heat like 225, it can get it gets hardened. And now for the best part of it. And you want to get these, make sure that you get them kind of close to the edge, because the edge is what you need to have there. Now, this parchment paper can be used over and over and over again. If you're making these, you'll probably use just these 2 sheets of parchment paper for the whole thing, depending upon how many you're making. Some wax will stay on the parchment paper, which is okay because the next sheet that you have, or the next piece of fabric, you're going to do it. Your fabric always needs to be washed prior to this, so that you've taken out all of the sizing. Okay, and that's true with most projects using fabric. You need to wash it first. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing on this. When I gave these as gifts last year, I did a little card that told people what they were and how to use them and how to clean them. The reason being is a lot of people don't know how to do this. You can buy these wraps online. Sometimes they are very, very, very expensive. I mean, you get just a few and it'll cost you a huge amount of money. It actually is, for me, this is a much better way to do it and more economical. Now, because I'm using a convection oven, I think this will actually go a little bit faster.
It's not actually
It isn't? What is it?
convection, it's regular oven.
Oh, is it regular? Oh, I thought, because I could hear the,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm actually at Lisa's home. So you can see that I haven't used a huge amount of any of the products. Okay, and then and what's going to happen is I'm just going to be watching this to see how it melts. You can use just about any, this piece of fabric, I cut out something, and here I have a piece of fabric, and I thought, well, you know, that would work nicely for, I make these rolls for my granddaughter instead of sandwiches. I use a flat bread and make this would be wonderful for her lunch. I actually get to have her every Thursday overnight. And so when I make her lunch for school, this will work great, but I'll show you how these work. And you just keep watching until such time as you get all the pellets served. You can see in the oven when the pellets are melted. You can actually see it. And then it's just going to be a matter of swiping it to make sure that you can move all the wax around. There are numerous YouTube videos on making beeswax wraps, and you can go to YouTube and you can look up all sorts of them. I have tried just about every one. There is one where you melt everything in a pot and then you dip your fabric. That's wonderful if you have, I found that it was messy, real messy, and some of my fabric got a little bit too saturated, and I didn't like that. There are methods where the one that I thought I was going to use for today was one that they used a double boiler. They put it on a double boiler and then they painted it on. Well, the problem is I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. I tried it twice and I used the right measurements and everything. So it said to use 1/2 cup of beeswax, 3 tablespoons of the resin, and 1 tablespoon of the jojoba oil. And you put that in a double boiler. And I made a double boiler out of an old pan and a glass container, because I wanted, because I'd have to use it again and again. It'd be real hard to clean out. Well, I did that twice and it did not work. In fact, the resin got real gunky and it hardened up right away. Even in the heat, and I thought, well, I've used the wrong measurements. I mean, how could I have done that? Well, then I did it again. Very same thing happened. If it had worked, I would have loved it, but it did not work at all. There are, you'll find numerous ways to do it. This is my fallback method. I use this one most of the time. In fact, this is the only one I use after trying, I've tried 4 different ways. But you can go on the internet and if you want, try some of the others. I like things for simplicity and for no mess. I really don't like mess. So, cooking it in a double boiler, you've got that mess. And then painting it on, I actually used the brush that I had been using last year and all the resin hardened on it. And it was just like hard plastic. It was horrible. And just like you've seen those resin rings that people make and stuff, that plastic, that hard plastic, that's what it was like, and ruined the darn brush. So I was a little upset with that. But I want you to try using this. Now we've got a good part of it melted. We've got a few more to go. And then I'll start brushing it. Now, hanging it is another thing. I hang a lot of things, like I hang herbs. So I made a hanger, and I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but what I use for this hanger is I just had some pieces of wood. I drilled holes in them and then used some dowels. And I just put some little clothespins in, and I use this for a lot of things, herbs and my plastic bags. And I'm sorry, but I need your plastic bags because I did not have an example of my plastic bags on here.
Like on the grocery?
No, the ones that you just gave me some. You can buy, I will tell you that Target has some wonderful reusable. They are silicone. They come in gallon, quart, and then they're a little bit smaller, and they are really heavy duty. And I use those in, like, I freeze a lot of fruit for fruit smoothies and things like that. And I put all my fruit in them in the freezer. Lisa purchased these. She just showed them to me this morning. She got these on Amazon. These are all rewashable, and you can wash them in the dishwasher. and they are they're all rewashable and reusable. Now I wash all of my bags. I wash them and hang them, and I have, you know, because I had a lot of Ziploc bags, I still wash those. I mean, you can use them forever.
It recommends washing by hand.
By
Actually.
hand.
And there were 12 for $13.99.
12 for $13.99. Geez, that's really good. Well, and the ones at Target, you can get some in one section of the store, but the ones that I really like come in, they come in a brown box like this. And for the life of me, I can't remember, I don't know why I didn't bring them with me, but they are with the plastic wrap and all of that. And I cannot remember what the price is. I know the ones that they sell singly are very expensive, like $7 or $8 a piece. But these are, I mean, $13.99
Like
is,
$4.99 for two of them.
yeah.
These are from REI.
REI and
REI, it was Sierra Trading.
well, these are the type, but they have designs on them and stuff at Target. But you'll be able to find these in grocery stores. The compostable bags that I bought for my trash can, they are green. They come in a green box, and they are at Fred Meyer's. Now, I don't know if anybody else has them, but I went to, you can, I spent a whole day going from store to store to see what they had that we might be able to use for this top. And a lot of them, places that surprised me is like I went to Whole Foods. They had some compostable parchment paper, and they had some bamboo dinnerware, but that's about all they had. Okay, we're ready with our now, as you can see, as you can see, this is pretty darn wet now. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this. Whoops. I guess I might want to hold on to it and make sure that I've got it all the way out to the edges. I can't believe how easy this is. Now I've got this little piece of wax isn't white. I'm good. Now you'll see that this is really wet here. And I'm going to do this. Now, because it's so wet, because it is so terribly wet, guess what? I'm going to make another one. And this is, you've got to remember, I doubled this already. But now I'm making a whole other one. And the wax will stay on the paper. So my next batch, I'll already have some wax on there that I can use. And I'm just turning this over to make sure on both sides that I've got everything with good wax on them. Now, if this isn't easy, I don't know what is. And then you lift it up and you go like this. And they're basically dry at that point. Lisa, will you hang that over there, please? This one I've let sit for a little bit. Okay, oh wait. I have to put this back in the oven for a minute because I didn't tear it apart soon enough. Okay. This won't take but a few seconds just to heat up again. Next time. It doesn't matter how high it is, because I'm just going to take it off as soon as I see it shine. Okay, this is now ready to use on something. I still don't think that it's going to match this, but what happens is it sticks to itself. So I've just about got the app covered, but it's not quite big enough. But as you can see, it sticks to itself.
Mhm.
Does that make sense to y'all? Okay. Now we'll get this, I just have to get this shiny again. And we will have, here we go.
Can you reuse that parchment paper?
This parchment paper will be, yes, the next piece of fabric that I put on this. Now, I don't know if you can see this, people, but can you see how shiny that is? I think you're seeing it on there. Okay, that's wax that got on the paper. So now when I put my next piece on there, this will help me with the next thing. And I use the same piece forever. Okay. Okay, now I have this piece that's ready to be used.
Do we want to dry it or?
Well, it's basically dry, but I need to take off. I actually let it go for a little bit too long because you can see where my beeswax turned kind of a brown. That means that I let it go a little bit too long and it hardened. But the rest of it's fine. Oh, we can just fold this
Okay,
now.
doesn't have to dry it additionally or. Cool.
Well, you can. Okay, are there any questions? No questions? Oh, chat.
Debbie, you have a lot of questions.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, all right.
I think you answered some of them, at least some of mine. But if you want to go through them,
Okay. Where does the fine pine resin besides the local trees? Yeah. Ooh, we used to chew it when I was little. Oh, that's horrible stuff. You can buy the pine resin online. And I would suspect that you could probably buy it at the craft stores. Okay, now, okay. Love the idea of the dryer balls. I've never heard of it. Okay. I've been told that vinegar can damage the hoses in the washer and dishwasher. You know, I can't imagine that it would if the vinegar would damage the hoses in the washer and dishwasher. The thing is that it's acidic, of course, but I would think that some of the other things could. I have never heard that, but you can use vinegar in your rinse cycle and you only use a little tiny bit. You don't use very much. I mean, I was trying to think the other day of how much I would use. See, I just use the dryer balls and I don't have any problem. This top sometimes gets staticky, but other than that, I don't have any problems at all. Oh, I'll get that off. Where can you get small appliance? Now, the small appliance repair, what you want to do is go to the internet and just Google small appliance repair shops in Boise, and then it will come up where you can maybe get those. You know, a lot of them, it's more expensive to get them repaired, but if you do have to get new, really think about going to thrift stores. That's the best way for us to keep things out of it. So we talked about the kind resin. Do you wait for your food to cool? No, and the reason that because I have cold hands, I mean, I was a nurse. And so before I ever, you know, with my stethoscope in my hands, I would always have to rub them together to get my hands warm. So for me, it's better to have the warm food because it'll help it adhere much better. How do you wash the wraps? And you use a mild soap on them and warm water, and then you just hang them to dry or whatever. I have the hangers that you get from the dry cleaners, the wire ones. They're wonderful for hanging those because I've got those little tiny clothespins, and that's where I hang my my plastic bags in my laundry room. I hang my plastic bags. I hang these sheets when I clean them. I hang. I use a lot of cheesecloth, and I hang the cheesecloth. You know, like when I'm making yogurt and stuff. Can you use old t-shirts? No, they're cotton. I don't know why you couldn't. The thing with them is they would stretch some, but I don't know why you couldn't use those. I would, you know, I'd try it with one or two and see what happens. I think that would be the thing that I would do. Let's see. You can use a frying pan splatter screens to make blender paper, and oh my goodness. Oh, there's some interesting things here about making paper from gypsy. Let's see. Oh, does it require 2 layers of fabric? No, but the thing is that you can lay, like when I do my circles, these, when I did these yesterday, I laid them on top of each other and did 2 at a time. You could do more than 2 at a time. It's just, you have to put enough of the wax and stuff there, you know, to do it. But you could well do 2 at a time. The only thing I kind of don't like about the resin is, and I've done some without, is it gives a kind of a gritty. I kind of don't like that. But you could always use, the only reason I did 2 layers today was because I didn't have a pan big enough to put that wrap on, so I folded it over. And I've done that before. Can you please share your slides on how to make these covers? I don't, you know, Kay, I don't have any slides on how to make these covers, but I gotta tell you, go to YouTube and this one will come up pretty close to the first, well, on my computer, it came up pretty close to the first. There's 2 of them that actually do this one. And there's 2 videos that do this. There's one that has 4 different ways to make them all in one video. So just go to YouTube. And I'm sure that Pinterest probably does also, but I don't I don't generally go to Pinterest, for that. But you can get all of these videos. The slides were just, so I remember what to say. I don't have a problem with the slides, but this should all be recorded and will be on YouTube. So you'll have all that information.
Your whole slideshow will be on YouTube under NKA Idaho.
Oh, NKA Idaho is where that will be. And Kathy, how long does it take to get it on there?
I should get it to Sheena by today, so I would say probably in the next 2 days.
Okay, so go to NKA Idaho, and then next week, Lisa, she makes the most beautiful things. You cannot believe some of the things she makes. And we were doing origami bags when we first started. Hers were much better than mine. But she's got some really neat ideas. And then the last class will be on
Gift wrapping.
it'll be on gift wrapping, but it's all not using paper. And for Shimi, we'll be showing some of those things. And I have a special thing that I'll show you that I actually did my granddaughter and my daughter, my other granddaughter and my daughter, and the way I did their gifts. And it's making you'll enjoy it because I've got a sister that I've got to get her birthday present done for November. So on the last class, but you've got to come to Lisa's because she does some incredible work. Absolutely incredible. Well, that's all I have.
Debbie, I had a quick question. Can you share the brands? So like if we want to make these, just you said you like some like resin brands and wax pellet, beeswax pellets better.
Well, I just don't like the resin. I just don't like the resin. I got these on the internet and they're pure. One is pure Georgia pine. And this one is yellow by Cell. I don't know. And I really don't like these. The beeswax, the only one that is sold at the Boise Co-op is this yellow one, and it's a little bit spendy. It's not even a pound, and they've covered over the net weight, but I've put the pellets from the other bag into this, so I just had one bag, and it was $9. And I don't think I spent that much money on this, but last year I used this and I made, God, I don't know how many I made with this, and this is just what I have left. This will be what I'm gonna reuse. The jojoba oil, I just went on the internet, but you can get it in bulk at both. Roots also has a pharmacy, by the way, but it's all organic stuff. And so I've got a whole bottle of that. In fact, if people start doing this, I'd be willing to give them some, because this is a pint of it, and I don't need a full pint. You saw what I did. I just did it with droppers. But that is what's going to make it more pliable. Any other questions? Well, people, that's all I have.
Well, thank you everyone for attending today. And remember that this entire class will be available on YouTube. Go to YouTube and then search NKA Idaho and put in making the environment eco-friendly, or put in the words eco-friendly, and our class will pop up. And thank you again for attending today, and we hope to see you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye all.
Thank you.